Hello everyone, it's me, Veronica, and I am joined today by a very special guest, my dad.
Hello, I'm Greg.
And we're going to try doing something a little bit different. My dad and I have lots of fun, fruitful conversations about all kinds of different things, and we wanted to share a few of those things with you guys because we think that you might be interested in some of them too. So we're doing a little more informal of a video. There might be a little bit of editing, might not. But we're going to talk about a little insight that my dad had when we were watching X-Men: The Last Stand, of all things. And I'm going to restrain myself from going into a tangent about The Last Stand. But yeah, there's a scene in the movie where, if you remember the plot of it, there's the whole mutant cure thing going on. And Beast goes up to the character of Leech, who can turn off mutant powers when they're close to him. And it partially turns off his mutation so that he kind of sees a human hand for a little bit. And that kind of sparks some inspiration in my dad's mind, so he's going to tell you about it.
Yeah, it's been a long time since we've seen it, but it's something I remember pretty well. And for some reason, I don't know if it was close to the occasion that we are now, which is the Easter season. Yes, we just celebrated the resurrection.
We're squeezing this in right at the end of Easter season.
And last Thursday was the traditional holy day of the ascension of Jesus, and that all points us to the resurrection and the place that Christians all hope to wind up, on the side of the lambs and not the side of the goats, where we're raised to eternal glory in new bodies. And in that scene, when Beast steps closer to Leech and his hand, pretty much up to his forearm, becomes a normal human hand, he stops and he looks. And it's very well acted, by the way, despite all his makeup or CGI or whatever it is that makes Kelsey Grammer into Beast. But he nails it for a moment while he's sitting there looking at his hand, and he says to Leech, "You have an amazing gift." And he thanked him. Mm-hmm. And he walked away. So that's all very interesting this time of the year for Christians. Leech is in a body that, from what Veronica's told me, because I'm not a huge comic fan, I haven't read the comics and know all the details of every character, he's trying to undo his mutation. And it's fitting, I guess, in the movie because of his position as an elected official that he goes and he sees Leech and he gets to experience this. And it takes him, you can tell by watching him that it takes him to a place in his mind like, wow, this is where I've always wanted to go, to be like a normal human without a mutation. And
especially within the movies, as we see in the prequel movies, Hank was not very interested in his mutation, which I have other issues with, but we're not going to talk about that today.
Yeah, so he steps back and then they go on with the story, but that little moment kind of encapsulates the wonder that at least I have about the resurrection and where I hope to be and what my body's going to be like, because it needs a lot of help. Everyone in this world has a body with faults and failings, and it's part of our fall from grace. And Jesus is going to perfect us in the resurrection. And that just got me thinking. I saw that scene and thought that's a pretty cool encapsulation of who is it that we are, and what do we do with what we have, and where are we going, and what do we want to become.
Yeah, it's for those of you, if you're any non-Catholics watching this, we believe that we will be given new bodies at the resurrection, the ultimate resurrection after the second coming. So it's something for us to look forward to because, our human bodies now are imperfect, and one day they will be glorified and transformed. And this does run somewhat counter to the general theme of the X-Men, which is about, you're perfect just the way you are and you shouldn't want to change. But it's just kind of a different perspective on it because there are lots of ways to look at mutations within the X-Men canon from a Christian perspective as well, because we believe that, we've all been given gifts by God to do things in the world to carry out his love and his mission. So it's interesting to see how there are different ways that we can approach the X-Men and their various storylines, because that's what I like to do on this channel, talk about the X-Men. And I guess a other goal I have with this channel kind of is just to look at some forms of media and see how we can find God and His truth there, even if it wasn't what was intended. And that's, it's interesting to see His truth being reflected everywhere if you just look for it.
Yeah, and it also brings to mind a lot of questions about the world today. So, when was the movie made?
The movie was made in 2006, maybe?
Wow, so, okay, 15 years ago. And now we're in the throes of the viral pandemic. And there's so much argument about what to do. Here we are, where do we want to go, and how are we going to get there? And I've read a lot of things, and I've watched and listened to many things on multimedia. And
it was 2006.
Okay. Yeah, so a couple of questions, though, about what do we do now? There are people who fear we just way overreacted to this, and that there's a kind of a safety culture or a nanny state that wants to protect us from everything. And you kind of see that in a sense in the movie, where there's this agency set up to, I don't know, are they trying to protect the mutants from themselves and the world, or protect the world from the mutants, or both and?
Both and, especially when they did that story in the comics, I think about 2 years later, they kind of adapted in a way, but also did it better because the movie's not that good, in my opinion, and in a lot of people's opinion. But the doctor who's developing the cure, she says, mutants are just people who are sick, and now we're giving them a chance to be cured so they don't have to hurt themselves, they don't have to hurt anyone else. Specifically within the comic, there's a little girl who, her mutation, killed her parents. So the doctor is she kind of takes the girl in. Yeah. She's very sympathetic in that way, where she's saying mutations sometimes seem to do more harm than good. And she's saying that she offers a cure for it so that people don't have to be hurt all the time by it.
Yeah, and those are really valid questions for us to face as a society, and they need real answers, because there are real fears in the world, even today, with the things that we face, the dangers. And in the movies, I guess I can only imagine what it would be like to live next door to some guy that could maybe, shatter all the windows in my house with a couple blinks of his eyes,
With screaming if you live next door to a banshee.
Yeah, you do need to consider those things where equity is a very difficult subject to broach.
Yeah.
Okay, so you said in the comics that Hank had a lot of questions about who he is and what he wanted to become, and that in the movie you said that the coloring of his skin and hair was like a cinematic adaptation of him, right? No,
well, in both the comics and the movie, Hank was born with a mutation, but it just meant that he had really big hands and feet, and he had super enhanced agility and strength. But for the most part, he looked pretty normal. He just had really big hands and feet, so he looked a little bit more ape-like than a normal human. But nobody would think that no one would really think he's a freak in nature. People might call him a freak, but they wouldn't think that, because he doesn't have blue hair. He doesn't look like that. And then within the comics, I have not read this story, so people can fact check me on the exact details if you know, but he did do some sort of experiment that led to him growing blue fur and fangs and looking all much more.
Okay, I know what it was. In the movie, you say that the movie portrays his coloration and his hair as part of his mutation.
Well, I guess in as much as it went away when he was close to Leech,
it implies that.
I don't know the logistics of comic book logic and science with that. Is because within the movies, the way in the canon, which is a mess, we know, but he got his blue hair and everything when he was trying to do something to, I guess, not take his mutation away, but to conceal it. Because he was okay with having powers, he just didn't like it, that he looked kind of weird. So he does this experiment and he injects himself with this, and it's supposed to make him look normal. Instead, he grows fur and becomes a beast. So technically, that's not a natural mutation, but Leech takes it away, and so it's just kind of...
Well, I look at it like maybe if he didn't have the mutation, he couldn't have become blue and hairy. So
Yeah.
it may be
Yeah.
connected. So
Yeah.
you take away the mutation, it takes away the other adaptation that comes along
Yeah.
with it.
Yeah.
But that's another interesting question you bring up about Hank. You know, he had his powers and he had everything that came with it. You know, the baggage in his mind, which was the big feet, the looks, and everything else. It doesn't really change who he is. Who's a character I really like because I've seen the cartoons and I like Beast in the cartoons, and I do like Beast in the movie. Hank, I should say, that's his name. We'll call him Hank. He's jovial. He's witty. He's highly intelligent and clearly focused on the good of everyone. He's not a selfish person at all. I like Hank.
Yes. Y'all know he's my favorite X-Man, so you don't know how much.
But what's interesting, what you just talked about, is that he was dissatisfied with the things that came with his mutation.
Yeah.
And aren't we all a little put off with the way we're made? I shave every day, right? And I guess I could be kind of beastly with the gray beard.
I think it looks quite nice with the beard.
Yeah, you'll have to show a picture.
I don't know if I have. It's not to get it from you.
Yeah, we have some pictures.
A few pictures.
But so, and people wear makeup, people get tattoos, people cut their hair a certain way. They got to have a certain look, a certain vibe, and that's part of who we want to become. Mm-hmm. We can see that clearly played out in the movies with all the characters. I mean, they all have their dissatisfactions, and hopefully the improvement that you make is not just something for yourself, but something that would be for the good of others. Yeah. And Hank, despite that, I guess that interlude where he's tried to change himself for his own purposes, he has the good of everyone at heart.
Yes. So we want to get into other things I don't appreciate about the newer X-Men movies. Hank within the newer X-Men movies, he's a likable character. However, he is not comics Hank. He's kind of very different. He doesn't have the confidence in himself or anything like that. And I'm going to assume this is just because the studio and Nicholas Hoult didn't want to be in makeup constantly, but he spends the majority of his time in the newer movies not looking like a beast. He looks like a completely normal person. And even, within the movies, his feet look strange, but his hands look completely normal. So it's as long as he wears shoes, no one even knows that he has strange-looking feet. So it's just my extremely mixed feelings about the X-Men movies and how they adapt my favorite characters. I think they kind of missed the point of Beast in a lot of ways, which if the point is, love yourself and don't be ashamed of who you are with whatever deformities you may have. If that's the point of Hank, and it's also showing that he looks different, but he's incredibly intelligent and polite and cultured and everything. But they just have him hide it all the time. And even though he is still a nice guy, as Nicholas Hoult plays him, he doesn't. That confidence and charisma doesn't really shine through, which is kind of the best part of Beast, in my opinion.
So who was the actor?
For the
Hank? It was
when he's younger or when he's older?
Okay, his older is Kelsey Grammer.
Yes, when he's younger, it's Nicholas Hoult.
Okay.
Yeah. He plays him in First Class, Days of Future Past, Apocalypse, and Dark Phoenix.
And a sympathetic character in that movie also was Leech.
He's barely in it.
I didn't know anything about this young man until Veronica kind of filled me in on all the backstory. But here he is sitting in this room. It's white. It's sterile. Looks like a hospital gown.
But I think it was like a
bathrobe or
I don't think it was a
nightgown or something.
Just a white shirt and pants.
Okay, he looks
white and pure white tennis shoes.
Yeah, everything's white. It's
Yeah.
Of course, they're probably going to get ready to draw blood and make this serum, right? But when Hank walks up and extends his hand to shake his hand, and it turns into the human hand that he's always desired, he kind of looks and then he backs up, and it's like, what must Leech think? What's this kid's name?
I guess Jimmy, I think is
Jimmy,
his
okay.
real name.
Let's call him Jimmy.
Everybody calls him Leech.
But what must he be thinking? I mean, if anybody has the whole projection of undesirable mutant heaped upon him, it's this young kid. He's stuck in a room with all this military and scientists and researchers and laboratories and all this stuff around him, and nobody can come near him. It seems he must feel a little bit like Rogue.
A little bit.
Where,
I assume
like,
the humans come close to him, the normal
Yeah, but
humans.
he's in their video games, and that's all he does, and he just hangs out.
It's kind
and-
of just a test subject.
So, where are his parents? I mean,
I don't-
did they say, just, here, have him? You know, or...
Yes. I think in the comics he was probably abandoned as a baby or something, because he lives in the sewers with the Morlocks.
Yeah, so he's...
And he's also green in the comics.
Yeah, he's... Okay, so... In the movie, though, that he looks like just an ordinary kid. He's bald-headed, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so why is he bald?
Because he was bald in the comics. They were too cowardly to make him green and have
Yeah, so
bulging eyes.
now they're going to draw his blood and experiment with it, and obviously they have his consent. Let's hope they do.
Yes.
You know, it's like they didn't just go...
Consent? I don't know.
Gosh, I mean... Don't get me started on vaccines in children. Okay, that's another story. But that's kind of relevant for the times. We have to look at these serious issues and answer tough questions. And you can't do it just in the vacuum of one perspective. You just can't. And so what happens in the movie? I'm drawing a blank.
What, at the end? Or just...
Yeah, they're gonna... Okay,
talk
so
about what happens in this movie.
doesn't Angel come and get him?
No, Kitty comes.
Kitty comes
and
and
gets him.
That's right.
Saves him from the Juggernaut.
Yeah, and Juggernaut, who, by the way, is not a mutant. I've told he's not a mutant.
No, he's not a mutant.
But they make him look mutant in the movie.
Well, they make him explicitly a mutant,
Yeah.
because otherwise Leech's power, it wouldn't have worked on him. If it wasn't. That would have been
Right.
funny, actually, if they had changed it, if they had done it correctly in the movie so that he wasn't a mutant, and then Kitty's plan goes completely awry, and they both get killed probably, which would be kind of tragic.
Or it could have been, some clever use of circumstance where maybe Juggernaut blasts a hole in the wall and then there's some kind of a suction tunnel that pulls them out and they get away.
Although I suppose no, never mind. Yeah. I guess we don't know what happens to Leech at the end of the movie. Kitty takes him away, and presumably he'd go to stay at the X Mansion. I don't know why not. It's the whole school for gifted youngsters. Don't know where else they would take him.
Yeah, but then, here he is. He's a very polarizing character, especially among mutants, because you said there are some mutants who want to be made normal and some who don't. And here's that other question about, okay, I have what I have in my person, and I can become something else by another means. Or by some means I can become something else. And that all has to do with free will, which obviously we as Christians believe God gave us a free will. I can choose to go to heaven or I can choose to go to hell. Now I need God's grace to go to heaven, but I have to choose to accept it and to cooperate with it. And, in these movies, there's all these things available. You can go be with Professor X.
The X-Men.
Yeah, and maybe, kind of go with them, or you can go with Magneto. I mean, there's clearly the good and the bad at work here. Good side, the bad side. Who do you want to be? And there's probably a lot of them who just want to be neutral, normal people. Get me out of this X-Man war.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that either. They're if there's a way for them to be changed, that obviously fits in with the nature. If you want to look at the natural world of the X-Men, mutations are part of it.
Yes.
And that they interplay among themselves. So it wouldn't be like a CRISPR mutation, where in science we take something and we do a GMO with it. And in this case, that's part of the natural world. There's this boy, Jimmy, who has a gift, as Hank called it.
Yes.
He called it a gift. It wasn't some, lab creation of man's intellect and scientific prowess.
Yeah. I don't think they ever really answer the question in the movie about, I guess, should mutants do or not, should they take or not take the cure, because Rogue takes it in the end, and apparently, and it supposedly wears off, but, we don't know if you get into that.
All right, because they gave it to Magneto, and he
just
moved the chess piece.
And by Days of Future Past, which takes place after this, both Rogue and Magneto have their powers back, at least if you watch the Rogue cut. which is the superior cut because it has Rogue in it, even though she actually gets to do something useful, which never happens in these movies. And Kitty also gets a break, which she deserved in that movie. Anyway, Days of Future Past is my favorite X-Men movie. Just put that out there. I do think it's good. I have the least amount of complaints about it. I guess they don't ever really, because I guess the question arises of, should you want to change how you're naturally born, or your mutations a birthright in a sense, or should you get rid of them if you want to? I guess it doesn't matter, because the cure didn't work anyway. So.
Yeah. Well, and movies are movies, and things are happening at the whim of the writers, you know.
Yeah. The movie really, it had potential, honestly, to be maybe either a Dark Phoenix movie or a Cure movie, but they didn't really stick the landing on either of them. Wait, that's a discussion for a different time, maybe. I don't know. So I think that's all we have for today. As you can see, like I said, this is a much more casual format. We don't have a script or anything like I normally have for my regular videos. And, you know, bear with us. We're still kind of figuring out how we want to do this. But we'll probably make more in the future. And we hope that you guys enjoyed it. And if you have anything you want to share in the comments, please do so. And I guess we'll see you next time whenever we do this again. Bye.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Bye.